Yo guys, and welcome to a new video, and today, after months and months and months of waiting, I was finally able to check out Chris Stuckman's Shelby Oaks. So I have been waiting for Shelby Oaks ever since the project was announced a few years ago that Chris Stuckman, the biggest online movie critic out there, was going to make his own film. It was a big fucking thing. The man even stopped making all sorts of or all sorts of film reviews, and he is, I think, for everyone who makes reviews on this chat or on this app and on this website, I think a lot of those reviewers take a look at Chris Stuckman and see him as one of the guys that made them do it, which is for me the same as well. I have to say I'm a little bit more of a Jeremy Jahns kind of guy if I have to watch some reviews. Never really watched Chris Stuckman on a daily basis or all of his reviews, but I did watch him occasionally, so I was incredibly excited for when I heard that he was going to make a film. And whenever I heard that the film was getting delayed, I was like, okay, well, just work on it. You can do it. I'll give you all the time you need. I have to say, I did not participate in the crowdfunding because I did not know there was a crowdfunding, and of course I'm from Belgium, and that was in America, and monies. So I didn't do that. So I just had to wait until the final product arrived, and then I heard it was getting a wide release internationally, so I would be able to watch it. And around the end of October, this would have been my Halloween video because it would come out in the Netherlands and Belgium on the last week of October. But then suddenly it got pulled from the calendars, and I was like, no, fuck. And then 2 weeks ago, it would be released in the Netherlands on a new date on the 20th of November. And on the week it was supposed to release, I was waiting for the film schedules to come online from every single cinema out there in my vicinity, and none of them had it. And I sent messages to those cinemas like, where is Shelby Oaks? Like, it was supposed to come out. And they all told me that it was just silently pulled from the release schedule with no new date incoming, and I was devastated. My only plan, the only thing still left for me to do, was waiting upon a Belgian release, which was on the 10th of December, and then suddenly, out of nothing, they just decided to drop it on the 26th of November, which I was really happy with, so I would be able to watch it in the movie theater. I went to the movie theater, and the movie theater completely fucked up everything I was excited for with this film. And it's the most devastating thing ever with this film, because I went to the last showing of the day in the movie theater I was at, and the movie started off with just the Mike Flanagan Presents message that is in this film. For the people who have known this film, know there's something wrong already. So the movie started with that message, and of course with the corresponding clip. And I was very confused for the entire film, and I was extremely devastated. Of course, I had heard about the fact that this movie wouldn't have been great, that it had a lot of cliches, and that Chris Stuckman fell for those cliches or put those in for reasons. And I knew I should not expect something great, and that this movie had its fair share of criticisms, but I just didn't get any of it. And I was extremely sad because even though a lot of people still give this a 5 or 6 out of 10, some people gave it a 4 out of 10, I was literally thinking during the entire film, like, this is 1 or 2 out of 10. I just don't get anything. I haven't seen anything that I genuinely really liked. It's all, and even the stuff that was fairly good in terms of filmmaking, I was still extremely devastated by the fact that I just didn't get it. And after an hour, the credits started rolling. And I was even more confused. The thing is that happens, which is very important for you all to know before I actually talk about what I really liked, I really loved about the film, and what I didn't like about the film. The movie theater, I was on time. They wanted to go home earlier, so they skipped the first 17 minutes. 17. You don't know how angry I was at the people who worked there. Just saying. I was really angry. I managed to fix it. I found a digital copy. And I rewatched the entire film 15 minutes after I got out of the movie theater. I rewatched the entire thing, the full thing, to have the full immersive experience of Shelby Oaks that I wanted. I was devastated by this film. The fact that I didn't like it, the fact that they fucked me up so badly with this, I was extremely angry. So, with that being said, I rewatched the entire thing at my home, and this is the review I'm going to put out. This is what I will say about the film with my full, fresh views on that film. And I have to say, the best part is in everything I didn't see in the movie theater. The best part is definitely in those 17 minutes and a little bit after that, because they were talking about documentary, like a documentary style, which was really nice, but I was like, it's barely in the film, but the entire first 17 minutes is documentary style, which is awesome. The documentary features of this are really, really good. The found footage segments of this are incredibly good. They are extremely interesting. Normally, I am not the biggest kind of guy on found footage films. I like certain films with that, but they have a really hard time to fully grasp on my feelings and to fully grasp me. I also can't watch an urban explorer doing some urban exploring for more than 30 minutes. It's way too long for me otherwise, and I have to pause it and I have to do something else and then get back to it to get my mind back on it. So it's really difficult for me to stay interested in that for a longer period of time. Can also have something to do with presentations of certain YouTubers that I watched, but it's just I haven't found a video that I watched for an hour without being bored. So I was extremely afraid of that, but I have to say that that's the segment they nailed the most. It's absolutely astonishing to see what they did and how they can fully grasp you in and tell you everything you need to know about the story and tell you everything that is important and still have all of those little YouTube callbacks that I like to call them, because you can definitely see that there's a YouTuber not behind the camera, but behind the directing chair, because YouTube is mentioned, and the YouTube segments of this are extremely good, and I really liked that, and that was extremely interesting to see, and the different vibes and style and the different kinds of horror genres that they mashed and mixed up for this film in that first half and that first 30 minutes is genuinely really amazing. And I absolutely, when I rewatched it, that was my favorite part of the film. I absolutely deeply loved it. I thought that was great. Afterwards, whenever the Mike Flanagan Presents come, it's still good for a while, because that is when you see more found footage, and that entire segment and entire scene was extremely good and really emotional for some moments. And I genuinely thought that was maybe my favorite part of the film, apart from the documentary and genre blending that they did in the first 17 minutes. And after that scene, they go to a more generic version of horror with just a narrative feature film like we are used from them and like we are used to. And that is the point where this film starts to float away from being good. That is when the most cliche stuff happens, especially when she arrives at the house. There's a prison segment, which is also kind of interesting. It starts to get more generic, but in still a very interesting way. Afterwards, they go to a house, and that is where the entire third act of the film happens, and that segment is where the film falls flat, because there are certain choices that are made in there from the lead character that are just weird, that you don't really see what is the purpose of it. The entire story that they had afterwards deviated from what we had in the beginning a little too much to give us something supernatural, which in my opinion didn't really work for this film, and I thought that is what killed this film entirely, because if it was just more realistic, I think I would have liked it more. But the entire demonic thing that they did in the end, and the house thing that they did in the end, and every segment that they had in there, especially how far they went in the end, like how big and how grand they made everything, it kind of killed the entire vibe for me, because I really didn't enjoy that. That was, in my opinion, by far the weakest part of the film. It still was pretty well directed, and the cinematography, especially in the first half, is kind of nice. In the second half, it gets more generic as well, but also still not bad in any way. But the story is just so incredibly generic that you just can't see this film as being a well-written story. It's a well-directed story that just isn't really well written. So you can definitely see that Chris Tuckman really stood out with all of his expertise in trying to talk about films and dissecting films for years on end, that he got a fair share of a good view on how you should direct a horror film. The writing is a little different. For writing, you really need to have a lot of talent, and I feel like the talent for writing is not yet there. Not saying that I can do better in any way, but it's just not there yet. I feel like there's potential for it, especially in that first half, which is really good. And the second half, it was just too generic, and it felt like he wanted to play safe in there, which I guess isn't the case, but it felt like it. And that is where the movie falls flat. And I think it fell flat for a lot of people on that segment, on that later half. If the later half was more like the first half, this would have been a phenomenal debut film. Right now, what we ended up with is a phenomenal first half of a debut film, transitioning into a generic horror film afterwards. And if the second half was more like the first half, this would have been fantastic. And everyone would have loved this, I think. Right now, it's not there. The potential is there for Chris Tuckman, and I am incredibly excited to see what he does next, because you can see the value of what he can do, and you can see that he does well. For now, for a debut film, it's good enough, but there are some fair criticisms that I think he might learn from with this film to make a better second film. And if he learns from those mistakes in this film, I feel like he can become a pretty good director nonetheless. For now, it's still good. I still enjoyed that first half thoroughly. Even though they fucked it up completely, it was very, very relaxing for me to actually see the end product how it was meant to be without skipping the first 17 minutes. Still, fuck you, movie theater. For now, it's just a generic film on the end, but still, the journey to get there was pretty good, and the excitement I had for it also bumped up this movie a little bit for me. In the end, I decided to give this one 3 stars, especially because they fucked up the movie for me to be so bad. I was very happy with the end result, as it was not such a fuckfest after all, and it was actually a pretty damn decent film, and I was just extremely happy because I was devastated. Alright, what did you think of Shelby Oaks? Please let me know in the comments down below, because I'm really excited to hear your opinion on it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'd like to see you in the next video. Thank you, and bye-bye.